Right. So let's begin today's session. Back and neck straight. Gently close the eyes. And start observing your breath. Just watch the natural flow of the breath as you inhale and as you exhale. Be aligned in your posture. Back, neck remains straight. The body is overall relaxed and comfortable. Slowly begin to deepen the breath. Slow, long, and deep inhalations. Slow, long, and deep exhalations. Relaxing the mind completely. Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niraa Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Sukhabha Pashit Sukhabha Shan, Shan, Shanti. Just feel the vibration. Join the palms together in front of the chest and rub both the palms together. Place them on the eyes. Very slowly while blinking and looking at your palms. Open up your eyes. Start coming back. Come back to the smile. And namaste to it. Let us begin today's session. So I hope I'm audible. If my voice is breaking, just let me know. Just whenever my voice starts breaking, you can just unmute yourself and let me know. Right? So we are going to begin with the session today. Yesterday we were talking about Raj Yog, right? And we had understood what Raj Yog means. Perfect. Okay, great. We had understood what Raj Yog means, and we had, reached to a point where, we had started with what Patanjali ji has said in the beginning, the first chapter, how he has started the text, and we were discussing vrittis. We had reached the point where we were discussing vrittis, and we had discussed the first vritti, which was praman or right knowledge. Now let's move to the second vritti. Next one for us is Viparyaya, which is Vipar or wrong knowledge. So first one we discussed, it was the right knowledge, and that was forming a mental modification in the mind. And now we have reached a stage where we are discussing the wrong knowledge, which is again forming a fluctuation or a mental modification in the mind. Right? When we perceive something, either we can perceive it correctly or incorrectly. And depending on how we perceive it, there is a modification that takes place in the mind. Right? That is why even right knowledge is called a vritti, because when you attain that right knowledge, there is some fluctuation that takes place in the chitta, right? So now we have reached the wrong knowledge, right? So yesterday I told you what were the sources of right knowledge, and anything apart from that will either fall in the category of imagination or it will fall in the category of wrong knowledge. All right. So we are going to discuss first the category of wrong knowledge. What consists of wrong knowledge, right? When there is no actual basis for us, right, to draw a conclusion on a particular thing, that knowledge comes under the form of wrong knowledge, right? So let me give you an example for this thing, right? So when suppose there is this a very common example that I share, right? So there is a rope, right? So over here where we are located, there is a lot of greenery, and with greenery comes a lot of, a lot of different types of animals and insects, and all of these things, right? So in the rainy season, even now it rains a lot over here. So during this time, when everything flourishes, snakes start coming up and out if the grass is not cut, right? So I am most of us are very afraid of snakes, right? So now I'm over here, and I know that during this season snakes might be around us, right? Somewhere or the other, it is possible that there are snakes. Now I'm afraid. So, one night I'm just walking back towards my room, right? And, you know, uh, I see something and I suddenly jump and I'm just like, this is a snake, right? But actually, it was just a rope that had fallen down on the grass, right? And because there was, proper lighting was not there, I jumped back thinking that it was a snake, because already the idea of a snake being there, that thing was, planted inside my head, that during this time there are going to be snakes, right? So now fear, plays such a huge role in the way we perceive that no matter if it is that thing or not, you will perceive it to be that way. So when I saw that rope on the ground, I jumped back thinking that it might be the snake, right? But actually, it was the rope. So over here, my knowledge becomes wrong. And there is no real object over here, right? There is no real basis for me to gain that knowledge, right? So it is just a rope. The existence of the object of which I'm trying to gain understanding is actually not existing. The snake is not existing over here. So when we talk of praman or right knowledge, there is a real object, right? And when we talk of viparya or wrong knowledge, there is a false object, and I'm, there is no real object basically, right? So just a second. Yeah, there is no real object, there is no real basis for me to perceive that thing as a snake. Now there are a lot of factors that come in when I look at this situation, right? And one of them is that had there been perfect lighting at that point of time, or it would have been daytime instead of night time, because during night we are totally dependent on the lights that are switched on in a particular area, right? Because there is no sun. So had it been daytime and there would have been light, maybe I would have seen the rope for what it was, right? So in that same way, when we were discussing Gyan Yoga also, I told you, there is a lot of Maya and there is a lot of ignorance. Yeah, there is a lot of ignorance which becomes the reason for us to suffer. And as soon as we begin to, develop discrimination, we start to come out of that suffering, right? So in that same way, the light is acting as the discrimination, right? In this example, light represents the discrimination. So had my discrimination been developed well enough, I would have been able to understand those things much better. So light represents the discrimination, and when there is light somewhere, you know you remove the darkness, so both of them cannot exist together, right? If I throw light somewhere, darkness is bound to go away, right? So in that same way, when you start developing discrimination, the wrong knowledge is bound to go, because both of them cannot coexist together, right? So in that same way, when you start developing discrimination, the wrong knowledge is bound to go away, because both of them cannot coexist together, right? So right. So yeah, okay. So then let's move to the third vritti, which is vikalp. Vikalpa. Vikalp, right? So vikalp, our first praman had a real object, then viparya had a false object, and now we have come to a stage where we are understanding vritti which has no object, right? So basically we are just following words and we are able to create something in our mind, right? And that thing which has no basis, no object, only words can follow, there is existence of no object, that vritti is called vikalp or imagination. So a few common examples are there, like right? So when we look at Harry Potter, so we can say that all right, Hogwarts and magic and at least in the form in which they have shown it, right? So magic and Hogwarts and that platform, 9 3/4, right? So all of these things were nearly created out of her imagination, the author's imagination, be it any creatures that you see in the movie or the way in which magic has been represented. It is all because of the imagination of the author. See how deeply she went in, that she wrote 7 books, right? And 7 heavy books, not even like you can say thin books, 7 heavy books full of imagination she wrote, right? Which have no real basis. But you can still, your mind is so our mind is so sharp, our mind is so capable, I would say, that it can imagine things, right? So even though we know that whatever we are reading is fiction, at least the mind has the ability to create a world, right? So suppose when the movies were not out, even then a lot of people were reading Harry Potter, right? And they had their own image in the mind. As the story was going on, okay, they would have done this, they would have been here or there, right? So same thing, another example is
You are stuck.
Why?
all right. Okay. I'll just switch off my video because I think that is also causing, like, that is also taking a lot of internet. Right. So, yeah, we were on imagination, right? So, your third vritti is vikalp or imagination, right? And I was talking to you about, how, if I say the term leprechaun, mermaids, unicorns, you will be able to imagine, you will get some image in your mind, right? Which doesn't truly exist, which you will not find that exists. But you will still see that the mind, mind has this capability of imagining certain things which it doesn't it doesn't mind, it doesn't it doesn't care if that thing actually exists in the real world, right? So but we have the ability to imagine, and that this fluctuation that is created in the mind when we imagine something, right? There is some fluctuation or mental modification that is created in the mind when you imagine something. I tell you to imagine X or Y or Z thing. There is something that is, there is some movement that takes place in your mental field, and that is actually called imagination or vikalp, right? So let's move to the next one. Once I finish all the vrittis, then I will take any doubts. Next one for us is Nidra. Nidra. Nidra or sleep. Right. So then Patanjali ji, till now, Praman, Viparya and Vikalp, all of these are your, I would say, conscious mind that is, in this process where you are perceiving something, and it can fall in either three of these categories where the knowledge can either be right or it can be wrong, or it can go in the form of an imagination, right? Imaginative form. Now let's come to a state of the mind where the conscious mind is not active, right? So, during sleep, when we are in the state of sleep or nidra, at that point of time, we are, again going into some mental fluctuation, right? So when you go to sleep, you dream, right? So mental activity is not suspended at that point of time. But the difference of this vritti from other vrittis is that, now the sense objects, right? So when you go into sleep, when you go into this process of relaxation, that is when you will see that the senses, they are completely cut off from everything that is external to you, right? So it is a very I would say important stage. Why? Because right now, whatever we were doing when we were on a conscious level, when we were working on yoga, we were doing so many practices so that we could reach the stage of pratyahar or withdrawal of senses. But this comes very naturally to us when we fall asleep, right? That is why, Yog Nidra is considered to be such an important practice, because this is the state, the sleep is the state when, you are able to naturally reach that point where, you are cut off from all the external distractions, and the mind is, completely introverted at this point of time. You have to make no effort. The mind is introverted, right? And um, in this stage, you will see that when you dream, right? So when we fall asleep and when we start dreaming, right? So when we do that, we see that there is something that is connected to the reality that is coming in the sleep. When you are dreaming, some portion of your dream is going to be connected, always connected to the reality, right? So you draw on this vritti by the knowledge you attain when you are in a conscious state, right? So when you are in a conscious state, the objects, the situations that you perceive, you will see that those things, pop up in your dream. So one basis of the dream is always connected to reality, right? And then other thing is when your mind plays with that, or changes the situation in a certain way, right? But at that point of time also the mind is all reacting, right? But now not to the external objects, but the information that it has required when you were in a waking state. Yeah. So at that point of time, the uh, mind goes in a state of reaction and dreams. See a lot of dreams at that point of time, and all of us dream. Some of us just wake up and we remember, and some of us wake up and we forget. All right. So sleeping is that vritti which is very close to the stage of samadhi. Right. So Patanjali ji has also given a lot of relevance to this vritti and said that this one, if you understand this one, right, then you can almost understand the stage of samadhi, or absorption, which is the eighth limb when we talk of Ashtanga Yoga. And he says that in samadhi, the mind is introverted, and it is cut off from all the external objects. But there is this sense that you are still there, right? So but in the stage of sleep, the we totally lose track of, we are not conscious basically. The consciousness is the difference, right? So in samadhi you will remain conscious, but it is very close to the state of sleep. But when you go into sleep, you do not remain conscious of who you are, where you are, right? So next vritti he said is sleep, and last vritti that he has talked of is your memory. Smriti, Smriti, smriti or memory. So then he talked of smriti or memory, and he said this is the last vritti, right? And when you do not allow an experience to escape from your mind, that vritti becomes your smriti, right? So suppose some experience happened with you, or some uh, you attained some, acquired some knowledge, attained some knowledge. Yeah. So at that point of time, either we have two choices, right? So sometimes something impacts us so much that it remains with us, right? So at that point of time, it becomes smriti. It becomes a memory. Or sometimes you will see that no matter how much you learn, or suppose you learn something, you gain some new information, and after a time, you forget it, right? So it doesn't remain in your uh, mind anymore, and you cannot remember it. So at that point of time, you let that experience escape. You let go of that experience from the mind. So that one we call forgetfulness, right? Sometimes we all go through this sense of forgetfulness. So sometimes we let that experience escape from the mind, but on other times when we hold on to some experience, that state is actually called smriti or memory, right? And it can be very powerful and it can be very
you.
So sorry. Yeah. So if somebody were to come to you and ask you what your phone number or address is, you will be able to immediately acquire that information from some part of your mind, right? So you don't consciously all the time remember it, keep remembering it. But if somebody were to ask, so it is there, it is stored somewhere in your mind. So that portion is the subconscious mind where certain things that you are aware of, but you do not need them in your day to day life, or there is no requirement for them in the conscious on the conscious level. So those things, they are, they get stored somewhere, and that is your subconscious. So your memory can be on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, that you remember those things, right? And these experiences that you are able to draw over and over again, these are what he called smriti, right? So there is some fluctuation that takes place each and every time you remember something, right? There is some fluctuation or mental modification that takes place each and every time you remember something that had happened, years and years after. People sit, when they meet, they discuss about what had happened, what was that, what was this. There are so many memories that they share together. So these are all stored somewhere, right? So you haven't let go of that experience. It is still somewhere in your mind. And that experience is what you remember each and every time you remember something that had happened, all right. Am I audible? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, just now.
Okay. So, did you get the explanation of the fifth vritti, or was that cut off?
Yeah, it just cut off at the end, so fine.
Am I audible? Hello. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Did you get all the explanations, or did you miss out on something because of the network?
Uh, uh, I just heard your voice now. I went out. I'm not too sure. Naringa, you could speak. Naringa.
You cannot hear my voice.
Now I can hear your voice. Yeah. Before it was okay. Like, we could have. It was quite okay before as well. In between, I just went outside. Like, so I don't know what happened in between.
Okay, great. All right. So voice is clear. That is good. Okay. So we had discussed all the 5 vrittis. Are there any doubts?
No, Lucky, I just have some questions regarding our exam.
Okay, I'll take that in the end. Yeah, I'll just start with the next portion, and then when I complete it, I'll take your doubts
Sure,
on the exam.
sure.
Okay. Okay. Right. So then we come to the portion where, after he describes all the vrittis, he talks of how to come out of them. So he didn't just leave at the point where he just told about the vrittis. He said that, okay, now that you know what yoga is, now I will tell you what vrittis are. And once you get to know about what vrittis are, then you can work towards, actually eliminating them. So now when you deeply understand the term vritti, that is when you can work towards eliminating the vritti, right? So then he, you know, gave 2 processes for an advanced level student. So advanced level student, there are 2
You are
practices.
okay.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. Carry on.
Yeah. So he gave 2 practices. He said abhyas or practice. And vairagya, detachment. Abhyasa and vairagya, Varigya. Abhyas and vairagya, he said that an advanced level student, the student can do these 2 things and reach the point of complete absorption and being free from all the suffering, right? So the advanced level student, he or she has already decided which practice they are going to take, right? And in that practice they have gone very deep, and they are on their way to pursuing it more deeply, right? So over here he doesn't clarify, which practice you have to choose. You could have chosen Hatha Yoga, you could have chosen Karma Bhakti Yoga, any form of yoga you would have chosen, any practice you would have chosen. And in that one he just described the way to proceed, the quality that you have to give when you proceed on the path. And he said abhyas, so already you have chosen the path, now come into continuous practice. So he gives certain characteristics of abhyas as well. So I'll be discussing those. And then he said detachment. Vairagya is also very important. where you are, detached from the results, right? Initially detached from the results, and eventually, you come to a stage where you are seeing that you are getting detached from the desires, right? The desires that you have, you start getting detached from them. But for a beginner, it's easier to understand that being detached from the results of whatever you are doing, right? Why? Because we generally end up placing a timeline on whatever we are doing. We are just like, okay, I will give myself 1 month to, do headstand, right? And maybe it's not about the headstand, yeah? It's not about achieving the headstand. What you enjoy is the process, right? So he said that rather than placing timelines on yourself, enjoy the process and be detached from it. So enjoyment doesn't mean that you are seeking pleasure, that is why you are doing yoga, right? You are seeking a way in which you get free from all your suffering, right? So he said abhyas. First thing is abhyas, in which he, explained in detail that what quality does your practice need to have, right? One thing is faith, right? So if you do not believe in your practice, again and again, we have discussed this before also. If you do not believe in your practice, then you cannot go ahead and, go into very deep practice of that thing. If you do not believe in something, right? So first quality he said of practice should be deep faith, you know, that whatever you are doing, it is going to lead you somewhere, and it is going to lead you exactly where you want to be, right? So one thing is this. Then second quality is that you do it for a long period of time, right? So it doesn't mean that, in 1 month, if you cannot achieve the headstand, suppose you set a timeline for yourself and you're not able to achieve it, so you leave working towards it. Or you leave working towards the asanas or pranayama, you are struggling too much with it and you are just like, you know what, I'm going to give up. Or you do one thing for 10 days, then you do the next thing for 10 days, then do the third thing. So you keep changing. So you're not going for a long term approach in that. Long term things always take a lot of time. If you are aiming for something that is going to stay for a long period of time, it's going to progress very slowly. It's like a movie and a TV series, right? So in movie you will see, all the drama happens within that 1.5 2 hours, from the beginning till the end. Everything that is supposed to happen, it's going to happen very quickly. People will be sad very quickly, then there will be drama very quickly, and then they will be happy very quickly, right? But when you watch a TV series, you will see that, some episodes they are going to leave you completely shattered and you're going to wait for the next one, right? Because the story progresses very slowly. So their aim is not to end every episode with a happy ending, right? Not to give every episode a happy ending, because it's a long process. They know they are going to take out at least, more than one season. So, and depending on the number of episodes, the story develops in those number of episodes. So some series, which have been going on for a very long period of time, have a lot of, seasons to it. So there you will see that, the story progresses really slowly. Yeah. And if you start watching from between, you will not be able to understand anything, and nor will you be able to, appreciate the slow pace at which it is developing. The story is being set up, right? So something similar to that, when you are practicing, go for a more like a TV series approach. Why? Because your life is unfolding and it is like a TV series, right? So everything is going to happen slowly with time, right? So you have to go for a long term approach when you come to yoga, right? Don't go for a short term approach of trying to achieve something, right? Or just achieving that much and stopping over there. No, you are undertaking this process for overall development of yourself, right? The way in which you live your life, it's going to change that. So go for a more long-term approach when you practice, right? And the third quality that he said was your continuous practice. So if you end up leaving a practice in between, then picking up again, it's going to get very tough for you, Why? Because when you leave, you are going to end up in guilt, which is going to make you leave that practice more and more. And then after a while, 1 month, 3 months, 5 months would have passed, and then you will require a lot of will to restart that practice. Suppose you gain that will, and then you start. So you will see when you start again, you are again at level 0. So whatever progress that you make for your own sake, not to lose that progress, you need to make the practice continuous so that you are climbing the steps instead of coming down the stairs, right? You are going up the stairs. So make your journey such that your chart goes up, right? At least from your side, the effort should be put in such a manner that you increase, right? No matter where you are right, today, at the end of 28, 29, 30 days, you are ahead. You are not going backwards, right? So this is how your practice should be. This is how the practice of an advanced level student should be. So Abhyas I have explained. Vairagya tomorrow I will explain in detail. Any doubts in this?
No, carry on.
All right. Okay. So I think then we can end today's session. It's almost time. So you can ask whatever doubts you have related to the exam.
Okay, so let me just open the exam. So the 15 minutes teaching method of yoga session. So whatever, let's say if I choose Ashtanga, right? So I just teach Ashtanga for 15 minutes.
Yeah, you can do that. It's totally up to
Okay,
you.
yeah, and then this following one, performing asanas. What is that? Is that questions how we perform asanas, or we're gonna be given an asana and explain, or what do you mean by performing asanas?
Yeah, so performing an asana means that the examiner will give you a few asanas and you have to tell the technique and then perform that asana.
Okay, and the performing asanas, the asanas will be from Ashtanga series.
Yes, it will be from Ashtanga series.
Okay, performing pranayamas, it's all clear. So you will give pranayama and you will ask how to perform pranayama, right? Now mudra meditation.
Mhm. So
Is it
yeah, so in case of mudras also and meditation also, the examiner, whoever the examiner is, they are going to ask you about mudras or meditation techniques like you have covered in your Zoom classes as well, right? So they're going to
yes,
ask about
yes,
meditation, and most probably the techniques will be there. That depends on the examiner, how they are questioning. But all the areas related to your practical are going to be covered when you give the live practical exam. So, whatever the examiner will ask, so apart from the first 15 minutes, the 45 minutes, the examiner will tell you which asana, which pranayama, which mudra, and you have to perform accordingly or explain accordingly.
okay. So I don't think we covered mudras yet, so I think we will cover them in coming up sessions. And then
Yeah, and pranayama. Mm.
what is the question and answer? It's overall course, or
Mostly related to practical only, that whatever you have, like, related to asanas, maybe one or two questions. Like in between only that session will take place. It's like a viva, as you perform, maybe the examiner might end up asking you a few questions, maybe benefits, something like that, So that is going to be covered, but related mostly to the practical only. Uh, Less chances of anything coming out of that, but apart from that, but mostly it's going to be from the practical only.
okay. Now I want to ask you about the theory exam. What is the theory exam, and how it will be done?
Okay, theory exam, when you get your uh, when you complete the course, you can drop us an email and we'll just send you the question paper, and you can answer the questions and send it back to us over email.
I see. Okay, all clear.
All right. Oh,
A lot
great.
to learn, but yes, all clear.
All right. Great. Great. So if there are no further doubts, let's end the session. All today you don't have therapy, right? So you guys can 300 hours. So Om Shanti to everyone, and I will see you for your pranayam class in the evening, right? So Om Shanti and bye bye.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much.